Caring people make the difference at American Senior Communities. Visit ascseniorcare.com for more information about services, location, and special stories of seniors.
Welcome back to Caregiver Crossing on 93 WIBC. It's Terry Stacy. Well, Legacy is a sister company to Flanner Buchanan, and most people are very familiar with the name Flanner and Buchanan. But here to help us understand a little bit more about the Legacy program is Eddie Beagles. He's the Vice President of Funeral Operations. Good morning, Eddie. How are you?
Good morning, Terry. I'm wonderful. How about yourself?
We're doing fine. I mentioned Flanner and Buchanan, but they may not be familiar with Legacy. Help us understand what Legacy is all about.
Well, Legacy Cremation and Funeral Services is a sister company to Flanner Buchanan, and we were started approximately about 13 years ago. The executive management team at Flanner Buchanan, as well as our owner, Mr. Bruce Buchanan, had kind of noticed that we were seeing a lot of families that just, unfortunately, through financial struggles due to long-term health issues, maybe they lost their insurance through their employer, maybe they'd been unemployed for a length of time and just unable to afford insurance, whatever the reason may be, we noticed that there was a lot of folks out there just struggling financially, and when a death occurred, of course, that's a very large expense.
Yeah.
And so that's the reasoning behind Legacy Cremation and Funeral Services. And our mission is to provide a quality service for those families who, without us, really wouldn't be able to afford the type of funeral service or cremation service that they want.
Give us an idea, when a loved one has died, about that funeral cost that we should expect.
Yeah, here in the Indianapolis metro area, if you're looking at both, there's two expenses to a funeral if you're choosing traditional burial. So you have the expense that's going to be owed to the funeral home for their services, and then you're also going to have the expense to the cemetery. And a lot of folks forget about that piece. So when you look at both of those together, the average funeral here in the Indianapolis metropolitan area is probably in the area of between $8,000 and $10,000.
Wow.
And that's a large expense when you have to come up with that money in just a few days if someone doesn't have insurance,
yeah, you're
or
absolutely
the
right.
other financial means.
Can anyone use Legacy, or are there some income guidelines?
No, we're open to anyone in the community who wants to use our service as an affordable alternative. We offer both traditional burial services as well as cremation services. So we are a full-service funeral home. The only difference between us and other funeral homes out there is our cost. On average, we're about 40% less than most what I term traditional funeral homes. And the reason that we can do that is twofold. Number one, we have the support of Flanner Buchanan behind us. So financially, that helps. Also, our overhead is extremely low. Because Flanner Buchanan has been around for 135 years, we own a lot of our own buildings, so we don't have the cost of overhead of mortgages and leasing and things like that. So the two buildings that we occupy, we fully own. So that also we're able to pass that savings on to the family that we serve. And also we operate on a different business model. We're open, we have a director on call and available to families 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. We're only open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so by being closed on the weekends, we don't have to staff those extra days. So again, we're able to staff a little bit differently and pass that savings directly on to the family.
Eddie, you said you had two buildings. That means two locations. Where are they?
We actually have three locations. In the Indianapolis metropolitan area, we have one on the west side, which is at Morris and Harding Street. And then on the east side, we're at 52nd and Shadeland, or 465 Shadeland area.
Okay.
And then we also have a location that opened up about a year ago in Anderson, Indiana. Because of the high cost of funerals in Anderson and not a lot of competition, we felt that the people of Anderson deserve to have a good quality funeral service without paying a very high price. And so that's why we opted to open a new facility there last year.
Eddie Beagles is with us. Eddie, I understand that you take Medicaid.
Sure. We get a lot of questions regarding Medicaid. The first thing is that not everybody on Medicaid qualifies for burial assistance. Only certain types of Medicaid, for example, Medicaid for the aged, the blind, or the disabled, are three that do qualify for burial assistance. But when someone passes and the family wishes to utilize Medicaid as for financial assistance, the first thing we have to do is check with Medicaid to make sure that they qualify. Once we get confirmation back from Medicaid that the individual does qualify for burial assistance, Medicaid will pay $1,200 towards the cost of the funeral. But then here's the hitch. The family is capped at contributing $1,750. So we're looking at a total amount to work with if the family is able to contribute any money at all, and sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. We're looking at amount of $2,950 maximum to work with. Now for us, because of our pricing and our packaging, that would still give the family the opportunity to have a traditional funeral with visitation and funeral all in the same day, followed by burial. The other thing is Medicaid also pays the cemetery expense separately. So that $1,200, that's to the funeral home. And then Medicaid will pay $800 to the cemetery, and the family can contribute up to $400 for the cemetery. If the family doesn't own any plots, there's only 3 cemeteries in the entire metropolitan area that accept Medicaid. Now, if the family owns plots at a particular cemetery, or if somebody donates a plot to them, we'd have to check with that individual cemetery to see if they will accept Medicaid for the remainder of the costs there.
Good explanation. Helping us to understand what you all are all about and how Medicaid affects this too. Eddie Beagles, Vice President of Funeral Operations with Legacy Cremation and Funeral Services. Legacy is a sister company to Flanner and Buchanan. Anatomical donations, how does that work, Eddie?
Well, right now, Indiana University Medical School is the only facility in the state that takes anatomical donations. And it's a very strict process. While I can't speak to their ins and outs, but I can tell you they do have, there's certain diseases that if a person passed from, that they will not accept into the anatomical program. Also, there's a height and weight restriction, which a lot of people don't realize.
No.
Also, the embalming has to be a little bit accomplished a little bit different. So if someone is interested in anatomical donation, that's something I suggest that they always contact the IU Body Donation Program ahead of time and get that information and start that process. Now, IU will work with the family at the time of passing, but again, they have very strict guidelines and not everybody qualifies. But if they do qualify for the program, typically in about a year is when they can expect to receive the cremated remains of their loved one back. And IU does also provide for a memorial service for those families whose loved ones have donated their bodies to science.
Eddie Beagles. Eddie, where can we find more information? You have a website, I'm sure, with Legacy Cremation and Funeral Services.
We do. In fact, we have all of our pricing and packages listed on that site, as well as our locations, so people can contact us. And that website is www.Legacy Cremation Funeral, all ran together there, legacycremationfuneral.com.
Okay, great. Excellent. Good information for us, Eddie. None of us are ever prepared for this, and this is a big help to understand what you all do there at Legacy Cremation and Funeral Services. They're the sister company to Flanner and Buchanan. Eddie, thank you so much for your time this morning. We really appreciate your help.
Thank you, Terry.
You bet. You're listening to Caregiver Crossing, 93 WIBC.